Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to exit your highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create, preserve, and grow your wealth. I'm your co-host, Pearson York, filling in for Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, business, real estate, and leadership individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, and inspirations. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. We're also streaming on expertcresecrets.com, the Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel, Kingdom Luxury Realty YouTube channel, the Kingdom Luxury Realty Facebook channel. And our next guest I'm super excited about. He's an OG in artificial intelligence and machine learning. He's been doing it for well over 15 years before it was actually cool. And so I'm real excited to introduce to you guys Luke Arrigoni. Luke, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're gonna geek out a little bit, and I'm gonna just dive in and just pick your brain on this whole concept. But before we do, I want to just get some context for everybody. Tell us how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I studied math in school, and I left and I went to school in New York, and then I went to LA and started working in e-commerce and then eventually in entertainment as an employee. And there was kind of this need, which is if you could take data and do predictions on it and kind of build your own algorithms, people could use that. And there wasn't really a term for it then. And then maybe, 10 or so years ago, as this whole industry emerged with data science, and I had already had a company by then. And largely what happens is a VP from one company will call me and they'll say, hey, we need this thing. And then they go to a different company or they refer. But largely my whole business is built on one vice president telling another vice president, hey, you got to call Luke's team. You got some data, you have some problems you have to figure out. You should give him a call. We've had a pretty blessed client list. UPS, AT&T, Goldman Sachs, Getty Images, Johnson & Johnson, kind of the list goes on. And we've been able to see programs of all kinds of sizes, and we've been lucky enough to work on some pretty interesting intellectual property projects.
Rad. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, and I definitely am gonna dive in. But before I do, I want to take you just a little bit back again and just ask. I believe everyone has either some spiritual gifts or strengths or superpowers that make them successful. So what are your superpowers or spiritual gifts that have led you to be as successful as you are today?
I always try to make sure I don't fall victim to Dunning-Kruger and pretend I'm an expert in something I'm not, only to demonstrate that I'm not an expert, right? But I would say that if I had to pick something throughout my whole career, a lot of the things I've been able to do well that some people in my industry haven't is being able to describe more complicated concepts in a simple way. And that distillation of really important thoughts helps leaders make good decisions. So I tend to get called back into those rooms where they're like, hey, we don't need the nerd right now. We need Luke to just explain how we can make these decisions. And I've always tried to keep that skill sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in layman's terms, you're basically able to take something super complicated and dumb it down and explain it to someone.
Yeah, I mean, if I know it, right, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right on. Well, that's awesome. So, because we're going to use that today, because I don't know anything about AI or machine learning except when what I saw with Will Smith and iRobot, right? And machines are going to take over the world, right? So naturally, that's my first question: like, when we taking over the world with AI?
So great question. Not anytime soon. Of course, there's probably some future where robots and like autonomous machines of some kind are driving us around or folding our laundry. But the reality is that that's not near. In fact, sometimes we hear people like Elon Musk come on shows like this, and they'll say, "Hey, we should all be afraid of AI because AI is going to own everything." And then, of course, for that, it's like, I own a Tesla. I just want my car not to drive into the median, right? Like, there's some people that are like talking big games on AI, and even their own AI is struggling quite a bit. So I think the reality is we're probably a little bit farther out than people expect, right? So I don't think anyone has to worry too much about machines taking over.
So then let's distill this down, right? Because I think a lot of people misconstrue what AI is. So what
Yeah.
is it?
All right. So AI is like this. There's this umbrella term. They could be used for everything. And
Okay.
so if we think about the largest umbrella being called AI, you can build something that's an if-then statement with like a million possible if-thens to fold a towel, right? And technically that would be AI, just not useful AI, right? And then underneath that, there's another little umbrella called machine learning. And machine learning is where all the value is right now. If you see an
Okay.
article about Facebook or Tesla or Google building some AI thing, it's probably just machine learning. And what machine learning is you take a huge data set, and inside the data set, there's some kind of value you want to predict, right? Like let's say that you have an e-commerce store and that there's 5 items in every cart, right? And you want to predict how many items are in it. Well, if you have a whole bunch of 5s, you can build a pretty simple ML model that says when someone goes to checkout, they're likely to put 5 items in. And then machine learning is trying to make that more focused for more complicated problems.
So how I mean, without getting too like, minute here, like how do you because like you basically are just using then like past indicators to predict future models. Is it the
That's it.
same
Oh,
kind
that's
of concept?
totally it. You said it better than I could. Past indicators for future predictions.
Okay. All right. So you're basically building then like just a code that basically says, okay, when X, Y, and Z happens, then A, B, and C is likely to happen in the future at this percentage.
That is exactly it. The math is kind of complicated, but the idea is not. So like,
Right.
and you could take this idea, right, and you say, well, can I predict something I haven't seen before? No, machine learning is not going to do that for you, right? Can I predict, an event which hasn't ever happened, right? Nope, I can't do that either. So it's very focused, and it's useful only for when we have large example sets.
Okay, and that might be like the big discrepancy between like the whole like iRobot
Right.
situation is like people are thinking like, oh, they're just gonna like all of a sudden learn like all this stuff like way faster than we can without any sort of context to in past events or whatever to relate it. They're just gonna like all of a sudden know the future.
In fact, let me tell you how dumb AI is. And it's, everyone hears about AI being like the most useful tool on earth. It is. And at the same time, let me make a case for how it's completely stupid. If I wanted to build an AI that drove our car, we brought that up, right?
Yep.
I would first need to build an AI that detects stop signs, and then the AI that would know how to bring a car to a stop, because you can't just slam a brake, right?
Right.
You need to transition it slowly, and depending on what speed you're at, there's a way to apply that kind of pressure. And then you would need to know how to accelerate again or make a turn right or left or going straight. These are like 3 or 4 different AIs. Each AI can only do one simple task. And that is for the majority of industries. If you have a car that drives itself, you probably have like 30 or 40 AIs that are inside this car. And so that you can't, one of them isn't going to wake up the stop sign one and be like, today I'm sentient. My name is Albert, right? Like,
Right.
it doesn't work that way. It's too far of a jump, right? It might be able to go from detecting stop signs to detecting red lights, because those are, one thing to another, but it would still be 2 separate AIs, one for red lights and one for stop signs.
Interesting. Okay. So let's bring this into the business world then, right?
Yeah.
Like, so how do people leverage, let me before I get into that, let me ask you this then. Are social medias and their like algorithms, are those AI?
They are. So their thing is, remember, it's just one task. If you're on Instagram, let's say you're on TikTok, right? And you're going through the reel. Everyone talks about the TikTok algorithm. This is a good example of how it actually functions. The only thing it's trying to predict is what is the next video that you will not scroll through. That's it. And
Okay.
so when it scrolls up, it draws. It actually it does it preemptively, so it draws like 5, right? So it's not, so you can go fast, but basically as you go up, it says this next video I'm about to give you is one that I've predicted you're not going to just immediately scroll through. That's the whole function for the machine learning on it. And it's looking at people that scrolled on stuff like you, scrolled on people near you, things you've shared, and your network.
So when people like these YouTube stars, right, or whatever, they're smash the like button in the face, whatever, for the YouTube algorithm, right? Like, whatever the case is, right? What they're really trying to do is they're really trying to just gather information so that they can put another video in front of you.
That's it. That's it. And the longer you stare at it, the more likely you are to stare for an ad.
Interesting. Okay, so then in the business world, right? How do we use this, to our advantage in order to, I don't know. Let's say this is a tax deferral podcast, and I'll kind of weave something in there in a little bit. But let's start with like a real estate or a business, whatever. Like we're trying to grow the business, right? In order so we can kind of like sell it and putting in these systems and processes. How do we leverage, like, what's the best way to leverage AI and social media in order to generate the revenue?
Right. So I actually used to do machine learning for a real estate brokerage. That was
Okay.
the first thing I did, like right out of high school, was I figured out how to do basically comps, like how much is a house worth. So house would come off of the MLS, we'd value it right away. This is like pre-Zillow, right? And then
Yeah.
we'd be able to go and make an offer on it before anyone else saw it. So there's two different kinds of categories for like real estate or other things that you just mentioned. The first is like a back end one, which is what I just talked about. Can you build a good strategy for acquiring assets, right? And there's a second one, which is a front end strategy, which is how do you get clients, right? Or how do you interact with clients?
Okay.
And
So
that's,
there's two
yeah.
streams right here.
You can think about back end and front end, and most programs will have a back end and front end. How do I make my process better? How do I gather more people to throw in my funnel, right? Or once they're in my funnel, how am I smart about it? So here's a good example of the front end, because that's the cooler one, right? Which
Yeah.
is, let's say that I had $100,000 to spend on pay-per-click or some kind of marketing campaign,
Okay.
right? You could just say, here's my intuition around who I think is going to be clicking on these things. Or you could build a machine learning algorithm that says, based on all of the experience I've had in the past and the people that do buy from me, I'm going to filter it out and say, these are the people I want to target. So what you do is you build an ML program that takes all of your past data, and then you would basically create a category of this is the prototype of people I want to target. Then you'd go on Facebook or Google and you'd buy from those categories. So
Okay. So you essentially, use the, when you say, okay, so when you just say like, I just build like a machine learning, like that sounds like that's like actually like really hard to do. Like how complicated is it to just like build a machine learning system?
Yeah, so it's really hard at scale. So if you have billions of rows, like some of the people I've mentioned, my clients, they have enormous systems, and at scale, nothing is trivial. At scale, I can't do anything on a single machine, and so you have to think about everything in terms of like 100 machines. But if you were to go on a tutorial today and learn how to do it, and you knew Python already, you'd actually be surprised by how well you can interact with the frameworks. But then if you wanted to get below the tip of that iceberg, it's years of math to understand it, but not a lot of people are operating at that level. So there's like an operators for machine learning that would take you maybe a year or so. And then there's like, I want to be an expert in it, that would take you a decade.
Okay. So basically, if you guys are interested in this, you can connect with Luke on LinkedIn.
Or a lot of people have like data science teams or software developers, right? And if you want to message me and like say like, hey, how do I get my team to do this? Like, look, we don't need your team, we just want to do our own team. Message me, I'll tell you. There's ways that you can help upskill a lot of your development team to be able to at least start playing in this sandbox.
Yeah. So okay, so going back to the front end then, right? Like you have this machine learning algorithm that basically is like, categorizes a list and creates I don't know, a client profile, right? That you basically are able to then go and target those people with the profile with the specific ad.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like how FBI does their profile on who they think committed a crime.
Yeah.
They're doing something similar, right? Except it's smarter. It's not just one person making one subjective thing. It's a machine looking at millions of possible points and saying, these are the people that are going to buy from you. Spend money with them.
Interesting. Okay. Now, what's like the return on an investment on something like that?
Every system is different, but typically what you want to do is prototype early on. So you basically build something cheap, and then like we're talking under a month, where you say, hey, is this going to work? I think, like you don't spend a ton of money. You see like what the accuracy, what the precision is. And then from there, you would have to make an ROI call. Like, hey, it's going to take 6 months to build this thing out. Or we will never reach certain levels of precision, so it's not important. And, it's different for every single case.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm going to do a case study with you really quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
On my personal business model.
Okay.
And maybe this will be good. So, this show, okay, is called Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and what our main niche is helping people defer capital gains tax and estate sale taxes. Now, there's a variety of ways to do that. However, there's one method that we believe is the best method, and that is called a deferred sales trust. And essentially, just for some context for you guys, what you can do is you can basically liquidate an asset, sell an asset. It can be any asset. It can be a stock. It could be a business. It could be real estate. It could be Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. You could anything that's highly appreciated. You can sell the asset, and the funds will go into a business trust that you can essentially use like a self-directed IRA account. So there's some differences. There's no like 1031s have 45 days to identify a new property that's the same kind, and then 180 days to close. You have to, if you sell investment real estate, you got to go back and do investment real estate. Like, so there's some nuances with this 1031 that's really difficult. Not with the deferred sales trust. You can sell a primary home above and beyond your 121 exclusion, which is $500,000 if you're married, to $250,000 for a primary residence if you've lived in it for 2 of the last 5 years. Now, the thing is that I live in Newport Beach, California. Okay, so it's a very pretty like wealthy area, like especially like right on the beach. Relatively conservative place. People don't like to pay taxes. And my thesis is that there are a ton of houses where people like there's a guy right now who bought 2 houses in Newport, one on the sand, one like 2 houses away from the sand for like $1 million back in like the 90s for both of them.
Wow.
He's trying to sell these properties for like $11 million right now, which means that his tax liability, just based upon what I know and his numbers, are going to be like 3.7 to like $4.2 million, depending upon how much he's depreciated and whatnot. So my thesis is that, look, if I can leverage the deferred sales trust as a real estate agent, luxury real estate agent down here in Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, those areas where the values of the homes are extremely high, right? They're far and above their 121 exclusion. These guys have, this tax problem, and I can come in and solve it. My hypothesis is, okay, you know what? There's a real competitive advantage there, right? My challenge right now is getting in front of those people, right? And explaining to them, hey, you have this huge problem, and, I can help solve that. And then, let me list your home and sell it. So how could I use AI and machine learning in order to kind of get that message out there? What would be the best way to do that?
Right. So for one, you have a very compelling product. That is super cool. I'm going to do a lot more research on that afterwards. 2, when I think about that, if you came to me like, hey, what's the plan? Of course, we'd have to talk about like budget in terms of like, how far do you want to go, right? Because if you're like, I had $1 billion to do it, I'd be like, well, first let's just hack everyone's phones, right? But like, we don't usually have unlimited resources, right? We're not CIA.
Right.
And so we have to make reasonable decisions. And while that's one extreme, we would make a somewhere between. And let's say you had a reasonable budget to build something of significance to get this done, right?
Okay.
And we'd say, okay, cool. I would ask for your data sets. I imagine you probably don't have really large data sets of any kind, because you're basically like, you're in the business of keeping everyone's information private, right? So you don't have anything. And then at the same time, like, you're not a large app provider, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then what we'd want to do is generate data. And so what we would do is we'd create like lots of landing pages. We'd create different kinds of materials where we can collect how people interact with these pages. And then as you get customers and clients from them, we would identify them. So let's say that you had like 10 of these different landing pages out, and there were 10 different parts of being a high net worth individual, right? Yeah. There's things on like how, like, a lot of high net worth individuals don't get conventional loans, right? They have their own process for getting loans, right? They call their bankers and such. And so you would have stuff on that, things that are tangential to your business. They're not quite your business. They're close to it, but you're giving information about it. And you can track people across these sites. So someone goes to this, and then they go from 10 different sites. You know which sites they've been to. You know where they clicked on the page, how long they've read, what sentences they read. You know if they shared the page with someone else, right? And so we would basically create this like dragnet of data collection. And then when people come across all of it, we would identify them and then reach out to them. So for you, you're trying to capture 1 or 2 whales, right? And there's lots of minnows running about.
Right.
So you don't want to waste money on the minnows. You really want to capture the whales. And that's how you do it, is this like, you're going to do this filtration process by putting lots and lots of nets out.
So basically, I just need to have like, I just need to have a bunch of different like lead magnets
That's it.
out there in
We
order
collect
to.
data on all of them, how long people click, how long they're there for, what they stare at. We would make it so when they're on the site, almost every part of it is focused and the data is collected.
Okay, so then maybe this is where you have a ton of value, right? Because once you have the value, the data, right? How do you organize the data and then make it readable and basically make it like useful, right? And that's
Right.
kind of what you were talking about earlier in your skill, sounds like, where you're basically able to filter and pull out what's important to this data and then create a narrative around it and then say, okay, hey, look, like this is the solution.
Yeah, like for instance, let's say we've tracked someone across all these properties, right? And they
Yeah.
land on any of them, even one that has nothing to do with capital gains tax deferment, right? Um, you have now a reasonable. We build a model, and the model takes all this data in. And when this person comes, we identify them as like, hey, this is a good target. You can save this person lots of money, right? How do we get them to call you? Well, we present them an ad that's very expensive, 18 holes of golf on us, right? Who cares, right? A few $100s gone doesn't not a big deal, right? Because you know you're going to save them money and they're going to pay you money, right? It's going to be a match made in heaven. So you take a huge kind of step out there, right? And you make a big offer to someone like that. And then the more confident you become, the bigger that offer can be on that site, right? Where you're like, hey, call me for a $100 gift card somewhere. Doesn't even matter. You don't have to take my product. And if you've ever received one of those offers where it's like $100 gift card just to do a call with me, that was the product of a very focused machine learning effort. You better believe they aren't spamming that offer out to everyone.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're getting super sniper on this.
That's it. If you're getting big offers on things like that, you should probably take it. To be honest, they probably know something that they could save you on. And also, a lot of times those offers are pretty good. I get them all the time. People saying, hey, give you a $100 DoorDash card to do a call with our sales team. Yeah, it doesn't mean I always take them, but yeah, you're getting sniped.
Interesting. And there is, and I think that's another thing that, a lot of people don't, like with this capital gains tax solution, like it is such an amazing like solution. It literally, I mean, with this guy, it would literally save him $4 million. Like it's insane what he could do with it. He can cash flow from it. He can do, he can go in and out of real estate when he wants. He can invest in the stock market. He can invest in hard money lending. He can invest in notes. He could start a business. He could do whatever he wants, And so like, I feel like a lot of times people are just like, oh, like I don't want to get sold on something, right? Like, and they just feel like, oh, like if someone like offers me something, like I'm getting sold, like, and I'm kind of like getting ripped off. This machine learning, right? There has to be some sort of value that they're giving you, right? Or else they wouldn't be spending the money on it, right?
Yeah, like for me, it's I guess like for instance, let's say that you did engage my services for this, right?
Okay.
First thing we would do would be like, hey, let's figure out if we can do this, right? I'm not going to sell you on a huge program first. Let's do a little taste, and we do like kind of a starter. And so we'd both give a little bit to make this happen. Both of us are largely kind of breaking even to see if there is a match here. And let's say we pull up maybe 2 or 3 sites and they start ranking really well and we get really good signals from it. Then it's easy to go back to you and say, all right, let's go ahead and do a bigger project. Let's capture more people. We're successful on filtering out all the minnows. Why don't we go for whales now?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting idea. I'm gonna call you a lot.
Not everyone has the ability in their business model to be able to give a little bit before they give a lot.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, that's something that's a little bit easier. I imagine like with your business model, there's probably a wealth of things that you do. And the instrument that you talked about how you could set up, maybe that's like the big thing, right? Where you are going to save that person $4 million. But between now and then, maybe you give that person that's selling $11 million property ideas around how they collect more people into their funnel or something of that nature, right? There's things you can do that are small bits before you get to the big one.
Yeah.
And never do it for free, right? I'm not saying do anything for free, right? Because they'll value your time. And a lot of these people, they don't actually care about money, strangely. They're not price sensitive. They want to know that you are valuable and are worth the money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. So having said all that, right, someone wants to engage in this machine learning and AI technology. How is it different than just doing like a Google ad or Facebook ad or anything like that? Or is it the same thing?
Well, they have their own algorithms for how they're going to rank you on all the other ads. So that's
Hmm.
kind of its own thing. But really, when you pull up one of those ads, when you're trying to do pay per click, you have to make lots of decisions on your own around who you're going to actually advertise to. And machine learning can actually be helpful, one, on picking them, but also two, eliminating ads. There's a lot of people that I know that'll do. Here's a good example, very practical. A lot of people I know will do like 10 different text ads, right, for pay per click, and then
Okay.
they'll try to figure out which one is the best. Well, you could use something called Bayesian filter to try and figure out which ones you should keep using. And that's something that most people can Google and just like immediately apply, which is like how many times was it clicked versus how many times it was used, and how much money you made on it, right? This
Right.
reward type thing. And so you can actually do, you can try and make better text that will convert better based on machine learning.
Interesting. So the machine learning is really what it's doing is it's giving you the 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 highest return for the client profile that you're building.
Yeah, in this example, absolutely. Other times
Got
you try to reduce money or reduce expenses, or we'll try to increase profits. There's different ways that we think about it, but yeah,
Interesting. Okay. All right. And then what's a timeline for this? How long does it normally take to
yeah.
kind of
Every client is something a little bit different. Most of their projects are about 6 months. So
okay,
we do
so
1 month through a prototype, and it takes about 6 months to get to prod. If you're a smaller company with less bureaucracy, it's less time. It's really not a technical function, actually. It's really how long does it take to get something to prod?
okay, so if you're a super maneuverable company, you can make a decision in 10
Couple
minutes.
months, yeah, 2 months, 3 months, you'd be done.
And once it's done, right, do they get to keep it and it does it keep like once it's built, right, it keeps advancing itself, right?
It
Isn't that
does,
the whole
yeah.
goal?
Yes. So you can build it that way so that it's constantly retraining itself, or you can not. So it depends on, like you say, well, why wouldn't anyone? Well, because that's extra expenses, right? And we
Okay.
always want to work with people's budgets. So it's better to have something that's good right now that maybe slips slowly over time. And then next year you call us back again. But for some customers, for most customers, they want it to just constantly retrain. So higher capital investment now in the program, and there's less times you have to call me. So it's cheaper over a long period of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Cool. Well, this has been super awesome, man. I
Yeah.
know we're kind of breaching up on our time here, but I wanted to get into the lightning round. But before I do, guys, connect with Luke on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Luke, Luke Arrigoni, Arrigoni. If you guys want to, if this is interesting to you and you guys can see how AI and machine learning could benefit your business, definitely go ahead and reach out to him. No books or sales pitches over here. It's just, hey,
Yeah, if
I'm
you
crush
have
it.
a lot of data and you don't know what to do with it, give me a call. Otherwise, feel free to connect. And even if you just want advice on something, I'm just always looking to connect with good, smart people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. And if you guys want to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust, we have a mastermind every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Come learn, just get to meet everybody and find out more. You can also find out ton of information out on capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And bring your CPAs, bring your financial advisors, bring your estate planners. It's an amazing strategy, an amazing tool. So make sure to check that out. Luke, I already invited you to that, by the way.
Excellent. I'm going to show
So
up.
yeah, so you'll be on there. So cool. All right, you ready to get into lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So I know you're not a fan of writing books or whatever, but I'm sure you've read a couple. So what's your favorite book?
Um, Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five.
Slaughterhouse. What is
It's
that
a good
about?
one. No, it's a fiction book. Basically, this guy, he kind of goes through time. You check out Kurt Vonnegut. It's pretty awesome. My best nonfiction book, actually, and I give your listeners would love it. There's a primer on trading gas in North America, natural gas.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. Even if you have no interest in trading natural gas, most of the people on this call, I think, are going to love like the complexities and how it's solved. I definitely give that a try.
Interesting.
Primer on trading North America. Primer on trading gas in North America.
Primer on trading gas in North America. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, cool. What's your favorite leadership quote?
Oh man, I do not know. Maybe either hire well or fire fast.
Yeah, that's a good one. Human capital is so important.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay. What are you most curious about right now?
I have a bunch of algorithms I'm way into, so that would be way too nerdy. But there's like some math that I'm getting into pretty hard. But basically, how to advance AI.
Interesting. Awesome. Cool. All right. And one more time, guys, connect with Luke on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/IN/Luke Arrigoni. His name pops right up. I did it earlier, so he's not hard to find. Go out there and connect with him if you guys are interested at all in machine learning, AI, or just have questions. And again, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. If you're out in Newport Beach area, Laguna Beach, Huntington Beach, and you have a tax issue, give me a call, and we will solve that for you for sure. So you can find that at kingdomluxuryrealty.com. I'm also on capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. So go ahead and either go to those two websites and connect with me there. Luke, any parting words, man?
No, I loved being here, loved being on your show, and I can't wait to look into more of what you're offering.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an absolute pleasure for me to interview you, man. I learned a ton, and I'll definitely be talking to you offline about what we can do, because I think you might be the solution I've been looking for. So interesting. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to grow your wealth. Please rate, review, subscribe, smash the like button, stay on the YouTube video for the YouTube algorithm and the machine learning over there, so we can keep this going and get this out to more people. And thanks again, everyone, for listening. And Luke, thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.